Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective. Well, welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Peter Fenger, and today I'll be joined by Dr. Traci Sweet. Traci is the co-founder and chief operating officer at Holon Health. With over 30 years of experience leading innovative solutions in behavioral health and substance use treatment, she's been at the forefront of integrating care models that improve outcomes for underserved populations. From pioneering the first integrated SUD treatment model at Catasys to developing evidence-based curricula for incarcerated individuals and DUI programs, Traci has dedicated her career to breaking down barriers of care. At Holon, she's focused on creating lasting systemic change by improving engagement, reducing stigma, and addressing the gaps in traditional healthcare models. Well, we're thrilled to have Traci with us today, where we'll discuss how Holon Health is transforming behavioral health care by seamlessly integrating primary care, substance use treatment, and harm reduction into a collaborative, forward-focused model, challenging systemic norms, bridging gaps in traditional healthcare and the criminal justice system, and harnessing technology to expand access and support lasting recovery. Traci, welcome to our show. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you here today. So as we start today, I'm really curious about what was sort of the inspiration, the creation of Holon Health, and what gaps in healthcare and the criminal justice system were you aiming to address?
There just has to be a better way to help and support people with substance use disorder, to keep them in their communities, to get full comprehensive care, not just substance abuse and behavioral health over here and physical health needs over here, but really to look at the whole person care and to have a positive experience.
Yeah.
So often, so that these clients in particular learn to care for themselves in a better way. That was really the main focus. There are so many gaps between rural population, geography gaps, access to providers, time gaps, lack of client choice. If there's only one treatment center in your area, then that is the treatment center that you go to. Even for social health issues, the complexities of just navigating the system and obstacles to care, and the association with getting help being a complicated and negative experience.
Yeah.
Those are all the things that we have to change. We have to make those better. We have to make the whole experience of not just substance use disorder or behavioral health care, but all care in general, being a more positive, collaborative, empowering experience. And that's really what inspired us to want to make a change and to be the catalyst for change.
Right. Yeah. And again, having taken the time and really looking over the thinking and the creation behind your healthcare, it's very intentional. And you're dealing with a very vulnerable population as well. I'd love to get into that, but I am curious about the name Holon. As sort of the word speaks to both a whole or part of a larger whole. How does that philosophy sort of work into your approach to healthcare?
Yeah. We're all part of something larger.
Right.
Layers and layers and layers of cells that make us up to a person who is part of a family, who's part of a larger community, who's part of a neighborhood and a community. As a person, I have a mind, a body, and a soul and a purpose. I have a family. I have a social circle. I have friends and community and relationships, a job. The umbrella just keeps expanding. So it's important to us at Holon that we view the person from that right lens, from many different umbrellas. We can't claim to provide healthcare and skip part of that. We can't claim that we want to help people to remain in their communities and not understand what that includes and how those parts interact in a meaningful way. We say that we're focused on community care, for example, and then we immediately put people into detox. Yeah. Well, for me, for someone who, really likes chocolate, you can put me into detox and I will be chocolate free until such time as you put me back into my community where I'm going to hit the first 7-Eleven for a Snickers. So for us to really understand a person's true dynamics, not just from themselves as an individual, but how they interact with the world and the larger layers was something that we built Holon on. And
Yeah.
that's how we came up with the name.
Yeah, and again, like it really sounds like this holistic experience that really kind of embodies the community aspect of this as well.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
important for us.
So I know you guys do integrate behavioral health, primary care, substance use treatment. Share a little bit about what this collaborative care model looks like.
Yeah. You know, for so long we've been doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's the very definition of insanity.
Right.
In 2017, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services came out with these collaborative care codes, and what they allowed providers to do, specifically primary care providers to do, was to integrate behavioral health into their primary care model. And they developed these codes for reimbursement purposes to allow providers to benefit from that and really encourage them financially to integrate those services. There's a lot of research that's been done on different disease states around that, whether it's diabetes, COPD, heart disease, around an integrative care model, sort of a disease management model. The research around doing that for substance use disorder is more limited, but also very impactful. So Holon took the primary diagnosis for someone with substance use disorder and behavioral health disorders and said, we're going to look at care through that lens specifically, with a primary substance use focus. And we are going to build in the collaboration and backfill the primary medical side. So we take it from the opposite side and integrate all of those providers onto a care team where there is a primary SUD. That's the first part of what we did. The second part of what we did in our model is really look at the population that we're dealing with. Nobody seems to get it right on the first time when you're talking about someone with substance use disorder. There's lapse and relapse. We know it's part of recovery. We want people to re-engage, not feel shame, not feel stigmatized. So we had to take the model of traditional treatment, which is typically cognitive behavioral therapy, and really develop a new way of looking at things. Why? Because there's only so many ways you can deliver cognitive therapy. There's only so many buzzwords or new things or, calling it a fancy boutique. It's still CBT. For the clients that we serve, they've been there. They've done that. They've been dealing with SUD and behavioral health for most of their lives. They've done the groups. They've experienced moral reckoning, which many of them have in the criminal justice system. They've had to retell their story and re-experience the shame and judgment over and over again. So when they got to us, many of them said, I'm done. I've had enough. I don't want to do therapy. It's been nothing but negative for me. So if we could take that experience and offer something to the clients that was very unique in a positive experience, then we felt like we would be able to engage them more effectively. So why not develop a program that uses some irreverent humor? We try to have a sense of humor about it. We use principles of positive psychology, specifically a solution-focused therapy for justice that I created. I developed the curriculum for our digital therapeutic application to just be very real, very future-oriented, goal-oriented, without the need to revisit the past and make this painful. My perspective on this is the problems that you had in the past are what led you to us in most cases. So if that's what potentially led you to a struggle, why on earth do I want to take them back there? I really want to be able to move them forward and do something that is enjoyable so that they get to the point where they go, you know what, this is different and unique. It doesn't feel painful. It doesn't feel judgy. And I want to continue to re-engage. So we're really kind of throwing the map out of traditional behavioral health and substance use disorder treatment.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really a lovely way to engage with a vulnerable population that has had bad experiences in the past. So
Very
really
much.
trying to re-envision what that might look like. And again, you use the word forward focused lens. And that can
Yes.
be so important, again, to just not revisit past trauma, to really, again, you're focusing on people's goals, and that can be
Yes.
so motivating, especially for folks that are in these sort of gaps in healthcare. So
Absolutely.
again, it does sound like an innovative program, but it also sounds like a positive, successful program as well.
Yeah, and it is very focused on forward. I don't want to ignore that there was trauma. And I understand that there's a place for that. And of course, part of that trauma is what got you here. But our shift to forward thinking, solution focused, positive psychology is super important. And the reason why it's important, there was a quote, I don't remember who said it. It might have been Mel Robbins, who's a motivational speaker. I know Jelly Roll has used it since then to be all contemporary, that the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for good reason. What's ahead of you is where you need to focus. It's hard for me to understand, as I said, why people come into a voluntary treatment program ready for change. If you're coming into this voluntary, you're saying, I need to do something. So they're generally ready for change. And yet the first thing we as providers, and I'm a provider myself, impose on them is a history lesson. Where have you been? Why have you done X? How has it impacted where you are today? How about treating people with, where do you want to go, and how can I help you get there? When you need directions and you pull up, to someone on the street and you ask the man where to go, he doesn't tell you, or she doesn't tell you that the place you want to go is back, past the McDonald's a mile ago. He or she's going to tell you to take a left at the next light. Even if it means you have to go back, they're generally going to say, take a left, take a left, take a left. So we're always trying to move forward. Will the past come up? Yeah, you have to peek in the rearview mirror. I do want to know what's behind me always, because I never know when it's going to sneak up. But if I've got somewhere to go and somewhere I want to be, whether it's with directions or in my life, then today is the first day of that. And for us at Holon as providers, we want to be the cheerleaders who help you get there. And that's really important to us.
Yeah, that's lovely. I want to park on one thing that you sort of mentioned before about how you guys don't take a one size fits all approach. And I want to ask even more so, you talked a little bit about how this population tends to be a substance use treatment, but
Mhm.
it's more than that. Who are the people that you're serving and how are you tailoring treatment to fit their unique needs?
We are serving specifically people at the intersection of criminal justice and healthcare. So they are somehow involved in probation, parole, reentry, community corrections, drug courts, who have also had a difficult time navigating the nuances and just complexities of getting quality healthcare. Maybe their idea of healthcare to date has been an urgent care or an ER for things that could have otherwise been treated non-urgently because there's no established PCP. They've had struggles getting in or finding a PCP. If they found one, you know, there's a delay until next July to get an appointment. I've had that struggle trying to, finding myself in a new place and trying to establish care with a primary care doctor and not being able to get a physical for months out. So the likelihood of going and using more expensive services in a high utilization way is what we're trying to solve for. So we're inviting people to lean on us for their overall health needs so that we can offer one, that experience in a positive way and help them understand what healthcare should look like. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be time consuming. We hope that by encouraging people to get connected and to focus on preventative care, it will teach them ultimately how to do that in their own community. So we're there with that goal in mind. We're looking at everyone individually, and that's really important to us. As I say, we treat snowflakes. People are snowflakes. No two people are the same. So it's important that we understand, the layers, as I've mentioned, in their lives. We understand all of the factors that contribute to their care. That includes social determinant of health, obstacles, barriers, and challenges to getting care, to staying in treatment, and really looking at them diagnostically from both a medical lens and a behavioral health and SUD lens. And then we're able to provide them individualized treatment. It's less about me imposing my goals on the client or my expectations of the client, and really empowering the clients to say, what are your goals and how can I get you there? An example of that, we have clients that we serve in Arizona that, we find out very early on that they're unhoused. And I think for many of us as providers, we think, oh gosh, we've got to get them into housing. We've had a number of those people say, you know what? No, I don't want to leave my tent area. It is my social community. It is my family. And so for us to impose that on a client, we really just need to listen as opposed to speak so much and really learn what are the most important needs and what are the barriers. Because for some, not having a house is not a barrier to care. So really important that we listen to exactly what every individual has to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, that is so important to be able to engage folks where they're at and not really trying to put them in any sort of agenda. You've mentioned the housing, but there is community that comes from that population. So
Yeah,
why abandon them from those support systems when you can recognize that that can be a tool for recovery?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't want to take them away from their supports.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
So good. So good. I know that Holon Health really tries to bridge the gap and is existing within that intersection between healthcare and the criminal justice, but there are challenges. And I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you have in working in sort of this intersection?
Yeah, this population in particular struggles with trust,
Mhm.
and trust is earned. So we have to work really hard to prove that we can be trusted, to prove that we're different, to prove that we are about catching you doing things right, because the court traditionally is interested in punishing you for doing things wrong.
Yeah.
We really have to give for this population before we can expect to get something in return. So, for many of the people that we treat, the doctors and therapists and clinical people and providers overall, not viewed in a really positive light with this group.
Mhm.
Um, so you have to give the respect before you get it. You've got to leave your ego, your authority, pretense outside the door. I say it to the clinicians all the time. We all put our pants on the same way. So to get that engagement, it's really, really important that we say what we do and we do what we say, and they can develop that trust and rapport. We always want to try to develop rapport very quickly. In this population, there's an even increased urgency because of the issues with trust. Once we get them in the door, the struggle is to hold on to them. This is a notoriously transient population. They're changing their numbers, they're moving frequently, they're sleeping on so and so's couch. Sometimes if they are unhoused, maybe they're off the grid. Some of them have warrants, have temporary incarceration. We just keep trying. If someone falls off our radar, we're not afraid to do a wellness check. We're not afraid to call the non-emergency, blue light uniformed professionals and say, hey, we've got concerns about this person. Can you go be our eyes? In that case, the benefit of doing that is, one, it shows that we are truly doing what we say. We do genuinely care that you're okay.
Yeah.
It also allows the police and the emergency responders to be seen in a different way, in a way that means care and
Yeah.
not crime. Because notoriously they see blue lights, they see people in uniform. They're coming for me. They're out to get me. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I'm going to get in trouble. We want to try and change that mindset, change that view of what police emergency responders mean. And it gives the police an opportunity to do that. Not that we want to
Yes.
do that all the time, but if we haven't heard from you in a while, we're probably going to do a check-in just to make sure you're okay.
Yeah. All of this are steps to building trust and creating those support systems. Like, why could we not lean into our emergency personnel just because there's bad experiences? Those should be team members that were working toward recovery. So
Yeah.
as you engage with the community in different ways, I'm really curious about how does harm reduction play into the program? And how do you sort of balance that with some of the long-term recovery goals?
It plays a big role in what we do
Mhm.
at Holon. First, change isn't easy. It's not perfect. In most cases, our clients are coming to us because they want to live a different life than what they've lived to date. The past situation, even the current situation, may not be working for them or serving them. But we know sometimes that what any of us want is complicated by the route to obtaining that. I may want a larger savings account. How I get there means I have to stop spending money, which, isn't so easy. So what can I expect of myself? If I set my goal to save $10 a week, that's $520 in a year, which would help around the holidays, but I'm not going to have the bigger savings account today. Or maybe I save, I don't know, $100 a month for the next 6 months, which will get me there sooner. Very similar to harm reduction.
Yeah.
What can we expect from this client? And how can we reward that particular progress? It's not about what I need or my expectations as a provider. Again, I'm not about imposing, I'm going to tell you that you have to save 10 or you have to save 100. It's about a negotiation. What can I expect from you? What goals do you want to set? And how can I be a positive in your life to help you get there? If it means that you don't use today, then tomorrow I'm going to celebrate the day with you and maybe ask you to try another. If it means you're still going to smoke weed, but you're putting down the fentanyl, then that's progress worth celebrating. And I'm going to
Yes.
support you in that. So, tell me how I can help. Progress looks different for everybody. It's incremental, and I'm going to celebrate every little success along the way. And I'm not telling everyone who comes into our practice, you have to stop X, Y, and Z. You have to do A, B, and C. No, you tell me what I can expect from you. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. But I want you to feel empowered to make those goals along with me.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Continuing education is both a requirement and a learning opportunity, but finding the right CE provider can be challenging. AATBS, a triad company, offers continuing education for psychologists, social workers, marriage and family therapists, counselors, and behavior analysts. CE courses are available both individually and as part of our new All Access Pass. All Access Pass provides a library of over 250 unique courses. That's more than 800 hours of CEs, with new courses being added every month. As a special offer, Behavioral Health Today listeners can save 15% on CE purchases. Visit us at aatbs.com/BHT and enter promo code BHT15 during checkout. That's aatbs.com/BHT. Check out our library and check off your CE requirements today.
Yeah, I so appreciate you sharing these details because it really does show how the values and the principles that you guys have set up for Holon Health really echo in just the way you're engaging with these people. The fact that you are celebrating wins for that person personally, it really shows the approach that you guys are taking to care. And I know that the journey to healing and the journey to recovery is not always linear. There are times where people happen to relapse. And I want to ask you, how does your program work with people that end up relapsing? And more importantly, how do you guys work in supporting them without shame and judgment?
Oh, gosh. What we are doing is providing courtesy and kindness and grace. I think those are three things that are so important. You're absolutely correct. It's not linear. It's very chaotic at times for a lot of people. There's ebbs and flows no matter what in making changes and maintaining consistent changes. But if we have a person who relapses, we move on. We move forward. Get back up, brush yourself off, jump back on the horse. There's no shame or judgment. I've been a doctor for 30 years. I don't know anyone who's gotten it right on their first time or first try, and none who have been successful where change was just that perfect straight line. to expect that from someone, I'd be setting myself up to be disappointed, and I'd be setting the person up to fail. So, for me, just as I would say to anyone in my family, any of my friends, we got you. You screwed up. You need a hand. That's what we're here for. I'm not going to take anything away from you. I am not going to call you bad or punish you. I'm going to recognize that this is a common denominator for us all, no matter what person you are, no matter what you're trying to change in your life. It's very similar, different characteristics, different variables, but they all come into play. And I messed up. If you can be accountable and be honest with us, great. Let's move on. Let's brush off and jump right back on the horse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sort of bringing their own personal responsibility into this, because it's not just a one-way relationship. There does have to be a give and flow.
Yep.
But having a support system that can welcome you back into the program, as you so demonstrated, it can be so helpful in these folks' road to recovery.
Very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask about the actual delivery of care. So I know we've talked about sort of the foundation of the system, really access to a number of tools, but you guys use digital tools and remote care in order to sort of deliver this. So my question is how does technology help improve access to some of those that just might fall through the cracks?
Yeah, technology is amazing, and it's an incredible tool for us. We have a hybrid model, predominantly telehealth, but we also do have a digital therapeutic application. It allows us to meet people when they have that need. And I think that's super important, particularly in working with people with substance use disorder. I had a wonderful mentor and friend when I was younger who reminded me that we see a window of our client lives, nothing more than that, if they allow us to even peek in. So any opportunity we have to get them to open that window or open a door, we have to take it. So it was important to me when I wrote the content and put the content together that I gave clients the opportunity to write their thoughts, reflect on things that they're reading, because there would be a provider behind the wall reading that homework. So the digital therapeutic application allows choice. It allows clients to go in 24/7, 365 to access different types of solution-focused, forward-thinking therapy, psychoeducation. They get to choose it from 9 different pillars of health. So it's not all about recovery and relapse prevention, but relationships, communities, et cetera. If I didn't sleep well, I can do a lesson on sleep. At the end of that lesson, they answer some reflection questions. When they do that, they receive a nominal reward, which is called contingency management, behavioral health. It promotes their continued re-engagement. It's 10, 20 cents. And we have providers on the backside. Our providers that are providing that face-to-face telehealth care are also in the background reading that homework and reviewing those reflection questions. So one of the compliments that we get most often is something like, I didn't know there was a real person reading those things. Thank you for caring enough to take the time. Clients are nervous about sharing things in real time. If we go back to that idea of trust, there's that fear of being judged or seeing a look in someone's eyes of shock when they say something to someone that they previously talked to. So we know that we see it in social media. We do it in our phones. We enter things in our notes. People feel empowered in social media, sometimes in a bullying and awful way, but there's an anonymity there. For us, I really wanted that digital therapeutic, which is called Holon Vibe, to be a safe space for them to express things comfortably that they may not have shared, that we may otherwise not have learned in a face-to-face meeting. And when the providers in turn can say empathically, hey, I saw your reflection that you really wanted to apologize to your best friend. That apology that that note that you wrote was amazing. Can I help you write that? It's a powerful experience for not just the client who says, okay, I'm she's not freaking out. I just said I did something horrible to my best friend and she or he's not judging me. It's also powerful for the provider because that provider now plays a huge part in that person's recovery and meaningful change. In writing a letter of apology to a client's best friend and maybe repairing a relationship. And if it doesn't repair, being there on the other side to say, okay, how can we tackle it again? We learn so much by having access to not just that window, but a picture window or a door into our clients' lives. And technology and the digital therapeutic really allows us to be able to do that.
Yeah. So many things I love about this. I mean, one, you talked about a safe space for people to share. It's so great to give them an opportunity to reflect, right?
Yeah.
Some of the ways that we can improve ourselves is really through self-reflection. You talk about how it is a safe space for people to be seen and heard. I mean, one of our basic cores as humans is just being valued and being seen and heard. So having somebody in a safe relationship to be able to sort of value what they're saying and having that chance to be seen and be heard can be a real support for trust. And then secondly, you've also mentioned this story about somebody entering in the journal and then working with somebody in order to practice that. That creates so many corrective emotional experiences that people can really see healing by engaging with this platform.
Yeah, it's huge. It's amazing. The things that we learn, I mean, sometimes it's also very humorous, but the things that we learn from people's reflection questions and what they say into their phone can be compelling and painful, but they can also be very, very humorous. We do share some of those with each other occasionally because it helps to laugh.
Yeah, I can imagine. Can I ask, just as a quick summary or a high level introduction of what the program actually looks like? When somebody wants to engage with the Holon program, what does that look like? Maybe just as I'm entering in, what's my next steps?
Yeah, you're entering in the first people that you're going to talk. Well, you're going to be set up on the digital application, Holon Vibe. You will talk to engagement, and they will set you up with your own care team. It happens very quickly. We don't want it to be a complicated process. We're hoping that people are probation and departments and courts that we interact with are making that referral. We try to make it quick and simple to engage. So you will see a provider who will then make recommendations about maybe the next provider. For some, it may be a medical side of the house nurse practitioner. For others, it may be that plus behavioral health nurse practitioner. For others, it may be the addition of a therapist. And yet still, there's also our peer recovery specialist. So it takes a village. And we have the people and the personnel, and we all work together as teams to encompass and really wrap ourselves around every client. And then from there, we're establishing a treatment plan. How often are they going to see the nurse practitioner? How often are they going to engage in therapy? Is it a shorter session, more frequently? All of that is customized to what they need and what we can expect from them. I don't want to, as we've been talking about, empowering clients, I don't want to tell a client, I have to see you once a week for 50 minutes, be here. I used to run a number of methadone clinics. Methadone clinics, be here between 5 and 8 every single morning to get your methadone. You cannot miss. We saw compliance struggle with that. It's very, very difficult when we can't negotiate that and get that buy-in. So for us, it's about, here's what we'd like for you to do. And then you tell us what we can expect. Again, we're going to hold you accountable to that. We're going to keep you accountable to those expectations. If you tell us that, you can do an every other week session for an hour, great, we're going to work with that. If you tell us that you'd rather do quick check-ins and more frequently, we'll work with that too. If you tell us that you want to really actively engage in Vibe and you're going to log in every day and do 2 lessons every day, then you're a rock star. If you're not, because you work 2 jobs and you have 3 kids and you'll be able to log in 3 to 4 times a week, hey, you know what? We'll work with that too. So that's how we engage people. That's how we customize their treatment. It's a little salesy. We've got to be able to negotiate and get buy-in. If we don't get buy-in, we'll get non-compliance, and that's not what we're doing. And in our engagement right now, we're up to 68 to 70% engagement, which is really kind of unheard of in the industry, to have 70% of people continue to come back time and time and time again. This is part of the reason for it. It's because we're not making it too difficult or putting our own expectations onto clients without asking them what we can expect from them in return.
Yeah. Wow. I want to congratulate you on that success. That is
Thank you.
That is a huge accomplishment. And again, a real merit to the success of your program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you actually have been a big hand in the substance program on Holon. And you talked a little bit about how Holon's program can last up to a year. So I want to ask you, what does graduation look like? And maybe is there a hallmark story that comes to mind of somebody when they sort of came in and what they left away with?
Yeah. Gosh, we celebrate those regularly in our team meetings. The providers and I meet regularly, and they share success stories. And then I usually turn around as a founder of the company, and I send that person an personalized email to congratulate them on their accomplishments. So I have a number of those. Recovery and health are lifelong efforts. Even those of us who aren't in recovery, I'm not going to stop and say, hey, I'm healthy. I'm done taking care of myself. No more doctor's visits for me. No, no matter whether you're healthy or you're struggling with getting sober and staying in recovery, it's a lifelong process. So graduation looks different for everybody. Ideally, we want the clients to be successfully engaged in community resources, whatever providers and specialists they need. We want to understand, did they meet their treatment goals with the provider team? Did they solve some of their social determinant of health issues? Maybe it's housing or employment or getting their license. And is there anything else we can help them with? We want them to conclude and complete the year-long VIBE program. And VIBE is a year-long program. It's one of the longest in the industry for a digital therapeutic. We want them to do that. We also want them to always have access to it in a longitudinal over time. Early SAMHSA, NIDA, our larger behavioral health governing bodies have said the longer that we can keep people engaged in treatment, the better their chances of long-term recovery and success are. So graduation, you've checked these boxes. You are engaged. You've made accomplishments. You've met your treatment goals. You've finished all of the VIBE activity. However, I don't want to shut you off. I want to make sure that we are always there, that you always have access to Holon VIBE, that it becomes the Bible that you use. For example, one of the lessons, and there are many like this, in VIBE is, if I feel like I'm at risk for relapse, who am I going to call and what are their phone numbers? I want a person to not necessarily put themselves in that situation, but if they find themselves in that situation, to be able to go to their phone, pull that up, have those people and those phone numbers right there, whether it's a year or it's 5 years down the road. That VIBE content should become the Bible by which you live. Where are my meetings? I've got those in there. These are the people that I call. I've got those in there. What are different behaviors I can do when I'm feeling a craving? I've got that in there. How do I get through an urge? Got that in there too. So I always want people to have that access to VIBE and maintain that. If there is a rock star who's done a really amazing job in treatment, and we've got a number of, and I'll share one with you, but maybe that person wants to become a peer recovery specialist and pay it forward. Maybe that client then helps us mentor others and we support their education, becoming a peer recovery specialist. So we have some of those that will stick around. We may have somebody who's just simply grateful for sobriety and getting custody of her child back. I'd love for all of our clients to stay in touch with us, but when they're ready to move and, look at us from the rear view mirror, we'll wave. But at the same time, there are some that may decide to stay with us because their experience has been great. because they have a bond with one of the providers, we empower the clients to decide when they're ready to fly, assure them we're available and we'll be here, when and if they need to change course and come back to us. So we're going to celebrate your graduation, but that doesn't mean it's the end of our relationship. And we'll continue to support and would love to hear from them. And we're here if you need us.
Yeah. One of the details I really loved about that explanation was the touch of your own email to congratulate them on their success. It is refreshing as well as it's so kind. Even people that are at the very top trying to manage and build this thing from a 4,000-foot view can still take the time in order to, create that engagement. So I think that is a very special detail that you guys are offering.
Yeah, thank you. One of our providers earlier today, I didn't tell you, I'd give you an example of that, but
Yeah.
one of our providers in a meeting earlier today had mentioned a gentleman, I'll just say his name is Eddie. And Eddie's been with us since November. And gosh, I wish I could remember all the details now, but he is on Suboxone. He has been clean since November when he joined the program. We've got him on Suboxone. He's been clean since then. He has 2 jobs. He has an apartment, has custody, is back in a relationship and has custody of his child again.
Wow.
And, this is almost 5 months later. And I heard today that he's doing an amazing job. So when I am done filming this, that's on my list of people that I need to send a note to.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And again, I love these opportunities for re-engagement. Beyond just it being a path for recovery and a path for healing, it really sounds like it's a transcendent experience where folks can really, at the end of this, you're giving them an opportunity to engage and give back. For folks that have gone through the same thing, you talk about the peer specialists. Again, it's so important for folks to understand the people that you're working with have gone through the same thing. So again, this whole system that you guys have set up in order to reestablish trust, to re-engage folks in ways where somebody else might understand what you've gone through, just creates a better experience for recovery and just more chances for people to get help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case. I hope it is transcendent. It's been, after 30 years of doing this myself, this was a dream come true for me to have this company and to live my dreams and my goals and develop something that has been the culmination of 30 years of my practice and what I would want it to look like if I were going to do this, and how creating systemic change is so important. And I think we're in a crux right now. So many things are changing in our world. We have an opportunity to really, really pioneer something great. And if I can be at the forefront of that, then that's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. I want to park on that because you're talking about challenging systemic norms.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, as you sort of created this model, what do you think are some of the keys that you guys have really put the foundation on that are challenging the systemic norms? And then even more so, are there any current trends that you're seeing in this industry that you feel that gives you hope that systemic change can be happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of new things just in medicine overall that are happening right now that scientifically and in a research capacity are really remarkable. Part of the big news lately is around GLP-1s and helping to manage cravings, and people with obesity issues that have been successful on a GLP-1 using naltrexone, which has notoriously been used for substance use disorder, using low-dose naltrexone to maintain their weight loss. I think we're throwing more tools in the toolbox, and I think that is a trend that we're starting to see, and we should really capitalize on that. Much to my point earlier about cognitive behavioral therapy, I think now, me wanting to really focus on putting more of a positive psychology spin is another tool in the toolbox. It doesn't mean that there isn't room for cognitive behavioral therapy or trauma-informed care. I'm certainly not bashing that in any way. I'm just saying there are more tools in the toolbox. And, we can't have, I've said it many times before, we can't have substance use treatment that is a one-trick pony. It just, it's not a one size fits all. So I think in trend wise, we're in We're in a place where we're starting to see alternative therapies come more into play. I think more holistic treatments, better medicine, or better understanding of cravings, research now around alcohol and cancer, the normalization of substance use disorder as a brain disease. God, it took us a really long time to get to a place where there is some understanding that this is, Journal of American Medical Association was right. This is a brain disease, and we should be looking at it from that perspective. I think we are finally doing that now. So that's important.
Yeah. No, those are all incredible steps on how we can keep progressing in this avenue. So
Yeah.
well said. I know you guys are currently in Indiana, Virginia, and Arizona in the US.
Yeah.
And I want to ask about what expansion looks like and how can more communities bring this program to their residents?
Yes. Indiana, Arizona. Well, Arizona was first. Indiana and Virginia, moving towards another 10 states, and then
Awesome.
more states in the years to follow. Gosh, we are growing organically, and word of mouth is really, really powerful for us. Even as we started, there was a story about Indiana and Kentucky, whether we were going to launch in one state or the other. And it came down to, this growing competitiveness between the two states related to, March Madness and basketball and who could go first. And Indiana won for us. We are still going to launch in Kentucky at some point, of course, like every other state. But that was the big joke, was that Indiana had to be first. So, as soon as we come into a state and the courts hear about us, it passes. It just goes very quickly. It moves very quickly. And, there is no cost. We are not asking people to buy a subscription to Holon Health. We're not asking courts to pay for the services. In fact, we're trying to save money across the board. And that's part of sort of the business recipe of this is give us your clients. We want to help you. We know you're burdened. We know that your probation officers have high caseloads. Can we be an additional resource to you? We are not going to charge you anything. We want to support you and find more ways to help you help your people. And when we throw an additional resource out to a court that may be strapped, 99.8% of the time they're saying, we need you. And if they're not saying we need you right now, they're saying, give us 3 months and we want you then. So it's been a welcome response, really, from the communities.
Yeah, that's excellent. I want to ask you, as we sort of coming to the end of our time today, I know your ultimate vision for Holon Health was really just this idea of evolving marginalized and the justice-involved populations. And I want to ask you, how do you see healthcare sort of evolve for those same populations? So you sort of look into the future as this 4,000-foot view. What does that look like?
Well, 4,000 feet. Okay. 37,000 feet, maybe. If I was omnipotent in my own little mind, in my dream world, follow us. We, myself, this company, the people that work for Holon Health, who are the most remarkable people I have ever met in this industry. I can't say enough about this team at Holon Health. We really want to be the catalyst and the pioneer for change. We want to have the best. I'm not competitive at all. We want to have the best recipe. We want the recipe that people want when it comes to substance use disorder care for themselves or people that they love, to challenge the industry itself to see things differently. If we had this right already, Peter, we would be winning the battle against addiction. We're not there. We're not there. We have an epidemic. We have fentanyl. We have overdose deaths. We are not there yet. So the right recipe, still in development, still being tweaked. I think we have some tweaking to do. We learn every day. We're still considered a startup. Our providers are thinking if the more things change, the more things remain the same. I mean, we're all over the place trying to tweak it and figure out and what's the best way and how should we respond and what language should we use. And Should we add this? We're constantly evaluating what we're doing. So I want us to be the people that others follow. I want to be that center of excellence that people say, you know what, Holon Health is on to something. That chick at Holon Health, gosh, I don't remember her name, but she's really on to something. They're giving people hope. They're giving people grace. They're giving people kindness, as you said, and courtesy. Maybe they're onto something with their solution-focused and positive psychology. Maybe they're onto something with more innovation with digital health tools and a hybrid model. I think we're onto something. I'm just at the place where I want other people to believe that we're onto something too.
That's so good. Well, Traci, I've really enjoyed learning more about Holon Health and your holistic approach to all the individuals that you work with. I want to say that your approach is really helping people repair the relationships in their lives and in their community, and really supporting them on the path toward real recovery.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you. Well, I do want to ask where our listeners can learn more about Holon Health, where they can support you, and how can they get involved in bringing this kind of care to their own community?
Yeah, holonhealth.com is the best place to learn more about us. You'll learn through every lens that we look at. I think that's the central repository for information. Spread the word, share this podcast, help us share what we do and talk about how we can help. We started as a company that wanted to solve for gaps. We're still doing so, but there are still more things that we can do better and more problems that we can solve. So, if there's a way you think we can help you solve a problem, do it. You can find all of us at holonhealth.com and email myself that way as well. So I'm happy to get the feedback and chat with anybody.
Well, Traci, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it.
And I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking the time to join us. You can follow us on our social media at Instagram, on TikTok, LinkedIn, and more. And we're on YouTube at Behavioral Health Today. If you like our show, you can give us 5 stars and leave us a review. That helps our show get discovered and share the valuable insights we share in each episode. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive for all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Behavioral Health Today. We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.